All right, what we're working with today is solving systems of equations with elimination. This is another algebraic method. Remember when we grafted a system of equations had a solution if it intersected once, no solution if the lines were parallel, and infinite solutions if you ended up with one line. Algebraically, we won't be graphing, so it'll look a little different, but a solution is when we have an x equals and a y equals. A no solution and infinite solutions are like when we solve regular equations, we would get these results when the variables are gone. Sometimes variables will be crossed off. Okay, so a no solution is a false statement. So if I get something like 5 equals 8, 5 does not equal 8, so it's a no solution. An infinite solution, on the other hand, is true. And so I would get something like -3 equals -3, and so that's all reals. For elimination, a lot of times what's going to happen is you're going to get 0 equals 0, and that's true, so it's all reals. Okay. One thing I want you to be careful and to remember is that sometimes you're going to get a 0, and a 0 is okay. This does not make it a no solution or all reals because there's still a number that I can divide by. This just makes it 0. So don't automatically assume that it's going to be no solution or all reals when you have a 0. All right, so elimination is my favorite method. It has some steps, but after you do them, it's not that bad. Make this a little thicker so I can highlight easier. Okay, so here's our steps. Step 1 is you need to figure out what you want to eliminate. We're actually going to cross it off. The next step is you have to get the same coefficient, so that's the same number in front, but different signs. Okay, and then we're going to eliminate them, and then we solve. Last step is you plug it into an original equation. It doesn't matter which one, it could be any of them. Okay, so we have different levels of these. They get harder and easier. So let's go ahead and start with some easier ones. So right now, I got to figure out what I want to eliminate. And again, to eliminate something, it's the same number, different signs. And so if you notice, I got a y here and a negative y here. I'm going to eliminate those because I can already do that. A positive y and a negative y are gone. And so now I have 11x equals -11. And I divide and I get x is -1. Now what I need to do is I need to find my second answer, and you can find your second answer by plugging it into either of these. So I'm going to plug it into the one up here because I don't want to have to deal with this negative y. So it's going to be 8 times -1 plus y equals -16. So -8 plus y is -16. I add 8 to both sides, so I get -8. And that's my answer. And again, I chose which one I wanted to get rid of first. We're going to come back to number 2 because I don't think we're ready yet. We're going to try this again. Let's look at number 3. Okay, so we're going to do 3 and 4 now. So if you notice, for 3, I can already get rid of the x's because one's positive or negative. And for 4, I'm almost able to get rid of the y's. So what I'd like you to do is try number 3, and when you think you have it, press play so you can check your work. Okay, so hopefully you should cross that off. A -3 and a -1 is a -4. 24 and 12 is 36. So y is -9. So that's my second number in my ordered pair. Now I'm going to plug this in anywhere. I don't want to have to deal with that -x, so I'm going to plug it in here. So x minus -9 is 12. So x plus 9 is 12. So x is 3. So what's going to happen on number 3 now is I do have the same number. The issue is I don't have the different signs. So I'm going to have to make one of these negative. So I'm going to say this one's negative and this one's going to stay the same. Now, since I made this negative, I have to make everything in that row negative. Now I have something I can cross off. 1 minus 5 is negative 4x, and 4 minus 8 is negative 4. So x is 1. Now what I need to do is I need to plug it into one of these equations. I can actually plug it into the first one, the second one, or my changed one. It doesn't matter. I think I'm just going to plug it into my first one. So let me get a different color so we can see. So I'm going to do 1 plus 3y equals 4. So 3y is 3. So y is also 1. And that's it. So if you don't have the same sign, you can make the same sign. You can make different signs, but you have to change everything in that row. I didn't just change the y, I had to change everything. Okay, now let's go back up to number 2 now that we can do a little harder problem. And so what I need to realize is I need to know what I want to get rid of. Now here's the thing, it doesn't matter. You decide if you want to get rid of your x's or if you want to get rid of your y's. I personally would choose y's for this one because I have different signs, and that's one less step that I'll have to do. So what I do is I look at these numbers and I figure out what goes into 4 and into 9. And the first number I can think of that 4 and 9 go into are 36. So 36y and negative 36y. I'm going to keep those different signs. So what did I multiply 4 by to get 36? That's right, I multiplied by 9. So I have to multiply this whole top row by 9. And the issue is people will forget to multiply one thing by 9 and it won't work. You have to multiply that whole top row by 9. And so this bottom one, to get from 9 to 36, I multiplied by 4. So I have to multiply that whole row by 4. And 18 times 4 is 72, so negative 72. Now I have a positive and a negative, and they're gone. So I get 57x is equal to 342, negative 342. And I'm going to divide by 57. And I'm going to get negative 6. So my first answer is negative 6. To find my second answer, I plug it into one of the equations. I could plug it into the first equation. I can plug it in here, the second one, the third one, or the fourth one. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to plug it into this first one. So it's going to be 5 times negative 6 plus 4y is negative 30. So that's negative 30 plus 4y is negative 30. I add 30 to both sides, so I get 4y is 0. So y is just 0. So that's an example that you're going to get 0, but it still works. All right? And again, if you decided that you wanted to get your x's the same, it would have been the same answer. You would have just gotten the 0 first, and then you would have to plug that in and got the negative 6 the second time. All right, let's look at number 5. You have to decide what you want to get the same. I'm probably going to get these the same just because I have different signs. And so I'm going to have a positive 9y and a negative 9y. The second one, I didn't do anything. It was negative 9y, so I could just rewrite it. This top one, though, I'm going to have to multiply everything by 9 because I multiplied by 9. So 16 times 9 is 144. Okay, so I have different signs, so I can cross them off. So I get negative 28x is equal to 168. And I divide by 28, and I get negative 6 again. And again, you can plug it into either equation. I'm going to plug it into this top one. So negative 3 times negative 6 plus y is 16. So 18 plus y is 16. And if I minus 18 on both sides, I get negative 2. I'd like you to try number 6 on your own. You can either decide to get rid of the 7, the x's, or the 8s, you can get rid of the x's or the y's. It'll give you the same answer. So you go ahead and make a decision and then try the problem. When you think you have it, go ahead and press play. I'm choosing to get rid of the y's just because they're smaller. And so I'm going to have a positive 30y and a negative 30y. Doesn't matter which one's positive or negative. I usually like to see my negatives on the bottom, so I chose that one. So I'm multiplying the top number by 6. So I get negative 42x equals 22 times 6 is 132. And then this one, I have to make it negative. So I'm going to have to times by a negative 5. So I get a positive 40x. And then 28 times negative 5 is negative 140. So my y's cross off. A negative 42 and a positive 40 is negative 2. And that equals negative 8. So I get x is 4. And so the first step looks difficult, but after we get that, it's not that bad. So now I'm going to plug 4 into one of my equations. It doesn't matter which one. All of them will work. So I'm just going to do this first one. Negative 7 times 4 plus 5y is 22. So negative 28 plus 5y is 22. So if I add 28 to both sides, I get 5y is 50. So y is 10. Okay, so you have to find a variable that has the same coefficient but different signs, and then you can cross it off and solve from there. If you don't have that, then you force that to happen by doing some multiplication.